The Folk Tales of the Mountain Backdu. Hello. Today I am going to tell of the story of the Bomaserng Castle. Bomaserng Castle, which is famous for its brave and righteous treasure horse that have appeared to protect stability of the country and the well-being of the people, is located about 4 kilometers north of Idabaka, Hwando Prefecture. This castle was said to be a castle of Balhae Kingdom about 1,000 years ago. At that time, Balhae Kingdom was in great harmony with the Tang Dynasty. Every year, the Balhae Kingdom exported special products to the Tang, and the Tang Dynasty exported special products to the Balhae. Bomaserng Castle was one of the places of strategic importance for both countries to trade by land. It was also a military fortress that received, communicated, and processed information, initially called Bomaserng Castle. In those days, the Boma meant reporting information through using the horses. One year, a general named Seurwong was appointed to this castle. He not only took good care of the people and made the agriculture become prosperous, but also trained the soldiers well so that the bad guys could not come near. So the people was living in peaceful days. On the evening of Chuseok in lunar August, the Korean Thanksgiving Day, Seurwong gave a big feast and was enjoying the moon viewing. The sound of performing live music and singing was overflowing in the sky, and there was an exciting dance seen in every street of the castle. It was at the height of having a lot of fun of the Chuseok feast. In the distance, the sound of urgent hooves came. Someone on horseback came under the castle and banged the gate. The gatekeeper shouted out of the castle,
"Who are you? Why do you give the bang on the gate in this midnight?"
I'm a daughter of Yeongmeng in the Weserng Castle. I have urgent matters to meet General Seurwong. Open the gate quickly.
When General Seurwong heard that the daughter of Yeongmeng had come, he ordered his man to bring her into the castle. As soon as Hyangwol, the daughter of Yeongmyeong, met General Seurwong, she fell on her knees and shed tears with a rush.
"Oh, Sir General! The Weserng Castle has been attacked by the foreign enemies. My father sent me to tell you this painful news."
She was sobbing and could not speak anymore.
"Oh, dear young girl. Speak slowly."
General Seurwong guessed that the situation was dangerous, and he was wriggling in his mind, but he showed no sign of it and comforted her with tender voice. Hyangwol wiped away her tears and kept on saying,
"One of my father's men, whose name is Chumoon, managed the military under my father, had been in contact with enemies. He opened the gates and let them in when they came. The patrol soldiers sensed the fact of that, and they struck a gong. But they fell down with a rain of arrows that the enemies shot. High and low commanders heard the sound of the gong and rushed to fight against it, but it was too late. My father rushed into the bloody battle with poorly armed, and he sent me here. Oh, he would have."
Hyangwol lifted her shoulders and sobbed. Weserng Castle and Bomaserng Castle were the strategic points to protect the borders of the Balhae Kingdom as neighbors. The fall of the Weserng Castle makes the Bomaserng Castle isolated and seriously threatens the fate of the Bomaserng Castle. General Serwong immediately ordered his troops in line and announced the danger of the situation. He appealed to the soldiers.
Let's save this castle with our lives.
The men and women of the castle, as well as the military, were willing to accept the appeal of General Serwong and prepared to fight against the enemies. The foreign enemies had to cross Idabaka in order to attack the Bomaserng Castle. Because that river was choppy and rushing, it was difficult for ordinary people to cross with being alone, and the trees were thick on the riverside, making it ideal for defense. General Serwong formed in battle array along this river. He had soldiers cut off the wooden bridge on the river, and he ordered them to ambush on the riverside. Galmang, the boss of the enemy, raised up an army and broke into the Bomaserng Castle, while he was willing to get a surrender from General Serwong with sending a messenger. While the messenger of Galmang arrived at the thither side of the river and hesitated, arrows flew away with the sound of sung sung. The messenger shouted,
Stop the shooting! I am a messenger sent by Galmang.
General Serwong had his men build a temporary bridge to allow the messenger to cross over. The messenger saw General Serwong and felt the amazing commanding presence of him. He was about 270 centimeters tall, and his body was like a wooden chimney, and his eyes were full of spirits, so the person who saw him in first was appalled.
We have captured the Yusua. We have a famous General Galmang and have thousands of soldiers. If we want to take this castle, we can do it rapidly like that. A crab closed its eyes. If you give up your castle obediently, I will make your soldiership higher and give you a generous prize. But if you disobey, I will turn your castle into a grass field and throw all the people and soldiers in that castle into the blood sea.
Ha! Ha! Ha!
After reading the letter from the messenger, General Serwong yacked it up. The laughter was so loud that the messenger was startled.
Don't bugle anymore. Let him do what he wants. It'll be good that Galmang comes and kneels and surrenders. Otherwise, I'll lower his height.
In the eyes of General Serwong, the fire was raging. The messenger heard the frosty words of General Serwong and backed off staggeringly. With fluttering their 5-colored flag and escorting General Galmang, the foreign enemies swarmed all at once unto the thither side of the river. But it was a rain of arrows that greeted them. Galmang retreated the soldiers and ordered them to form the battle camp, then to cut the large trees and build the bridge through using them. A group of soldiers came out to the riverbank and tried to chop down trees with their axes. General Serwong ordered to shoot them. In the raining arrows, the enemies could not cut down even a single tree. It only resulted that some of them were dead in vain. Galmang was filled with anger, but he had no way without retreating his soldiers. It was night. Galmang tried to cross the river at night to make up for the humiliation of the daylight. He ordered his men to cut down trees, build bridges, and cross a river. But the river is not wide, so the soldiers of the hither side of the river sensed its sign soon. From the thither side of the river, arrows poured out like showers, so they could not take even one step. The enemies tried to pay off the debt by shooting the arrows, but it was difficult to them to cut down a tree with hiding themselves, while General Serwong's soldiers could hide their bodies behind of trees and shoot their bows. When the shooting was on the crucial moment, from above, there was a series of sound that trees were crackling and falling down. The enemies grabbed the weak link and finally fell down a few trees. A bridge was born, although it was shabby. Galmang ordered his men to attack. Many enemies gathered around the bridge. Serwang sent more soldiers toward the bridge to snipe at them. The arrows were hailed and the axes and spears flashed in the cold moonlight. The sound of arrows, screams, and the clash of swords and spears was loud. Corpses floated on the water like fallen leaves and flowed down one after another. The fighting was fierce with the lapse of time, but in the first battle to decide victory or defeat, no one tried to retreat the warriors. General Serwang recruited 20 soldiers who were the experts of spearing and let them cut off the bridge. These volunteers were ready for death and tore into a confused battle and pushed the bridge into the river. The enemies who stuck to the bridge like ants fell into river with screams. As the bridge was lost, the first battle ended with the victory of General Serwang. Both sides retreated their soldiers and were preparing for a new decisive battle. The clouds parted in the sky, and a white horse came down in the camp of the enemies, howling in high pitch. The swift horse fluttered his mane and ran back and forth frantically. Because of that, the enemies were in turmoil.
Catch the white horse!
As the Galmang ordered, many soldiers rushed to the white horse. The white horse was so fierce that no one could put forth a clever trick to catch it. The white horse snorted and pawed the ground only after knocking out dozens of enemies. The soldiers rushed and led the white horse to the front of the boss. Galmang was pleased that the heavens had helped him and so bestowed a swift horse upon him. He put a bridle on the horse, saddled up its back, and jumped up lightly. However, the white horse, that seemed to be obedient to the orders, lifted the front foot and round in a huff. Galmang was to hold the reins firmly and to control the horse, but it was nonsensical. He fell off the white horse's back that was on the rampage and fell on his buttocks. While the common soldiers rushed to support the boss, the white horse flew over Idabaka and stood beside General Serwang. The white horse that did not even have one strand of black hair was liked by General Serwang. He jumped onto the horse's back lightly and snatched the reins and whipped it, yelling out,
Go, go!
The sound of the wind was buzzing from the root of General Serwang's ear. The white horse was really a dragon horse. It would have been more appropriate to say that it was flying in the sky rather than rushing on the ground. Getting a white horse, the morale of the soldiers and the people seemed to pierce the sky, as well as General Serwang.
General, let's take advantage of the victory momentum that we have gotten a dragon horse. Let's hit the enemy, then we'll be able to catch the enemies all.
Saying that, General Serwang's soldiers came forward courageously and firmly. General Serwang also decided to defeat the enemies thoroughly, because the enemies were already broken their spirits in a big battle. He ordered the whole army to prepare to cross the river. General Serwang emerged to the front with his sword and shield. Next to him was Heilongjiang, who was riding a ruddle horse.
Build a bridge!
As soon as General Serwang's order was given, the archers shot all at once to cover them, while other soldiers rushed out of a dozen places at the same time with 3 or 4 bunches of the arch tree in their arms. When the bridge was built, the great outcry burst out and shook the heaven and earth. The soldiers of Bomaserng Castle, who led by General Serwang in the head, crossed over to Idabaka in an instant and attacked the campsite of the enemy. The The enemies, who were demoralized due to the failure of the first battle and the case of the dragon horse, were unable to count the number of those who ran away in being frightened out of their wits. And the main reason was that they saw General Serwang sitting on the dragon horse. Galmang never dreamed of that General Serwang would strike his camp. Without even trying to block up the soldiers who flew at like a storm, the place of Galmang became a mess. As the enemy began to fall, General Serwang's soldiers attacked in the form of an angry tiger. Serwang gave a whip to Dragon Horse and shouted like thunder,
Catch alive! The general of enemy, Galmang!
and he ran on the Dragon Horse, cut off the retreat route, and turned around to the north, south, east, and west, and struck the enemies. The enemies were moving about in confusion, and the ones who were being died, and the ones who were being surrendered. As Galmang could no longer rescue his soldiers, he was running away along the bank of the river with a herd of men and horses. General Serwang's dragon horse was able to catch up Galmang without difficulty and to keep him on stranding. In the meantime, Galmang waited for General Serwang to brandish the sword. Galmang fell from the horse and feigned to surrender with a sword in both hands. He did not set free the hilt of a sword to try to do something anyway when the dragon horse came to him near. Approaching Galmang, the dragon horse finally flew up to the sky and kicked the back of a sword of Galmang. Even before the clank of falling sword faded away, Hyangwal ran like a lightning bolt on a ruddle horse and broke the body of Galmang into with her silver-decorated knife. Singing victory, General Serwang returned to the castle with his troops. From then on, people called this castle Bomaserng Castle, which means the Castle of the Treasury Horse.